Hi guys, and welcome to this video. My name is Maddie Hendricks, and I am a classically trained coloratura soprano, and this video today is for all of my choir friends. Yay! I love choir so much, you guys know, and I hope to do lots of videos on choir and choral singing because I will say that choir holds a very special place in my heart, because it is where I personally found my love of classical music and classical singing. And I've had many wonderful choral experiences in high school and in collegiate study and in undergrad and graduate school. And I hope to have many more as a professional singer. And I, apart from solo singing, I really love choral singing. And I always say that choir is not only about the singing, but it's also about the community. And one of the things I love about choir is I always say choir is a family. So it's like being a part of a family. It really is. And it's an amazing way to enjoy singing and being with a community of like-minded folks and exploring your voice. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about today, choir from a voice perspective and a vocal technique perspective. And as a choral singer, a soloistic singer, and a voice teacher, I'll share some ideas and some thoughts, and hope you guys enjoy. So, I can't say enough about how beneficial choir is for young singers, whether you're a singer in maybe middle school or high school, or you're just new to singing and you're maybe singing your church choir or singing your community choir. Yeah, I love choir. Yay. So, I was just gonna share some thoughts and fun facts, and, stay tuned for more choir videos. So, just a very quick snapshot of my journey. As a choral singer, I got passionate about classical singing in high school because of choir, and I had two incredible directors in high school, and it was an amazing intro to my voice. When I got into choir in high school, I pretty immediately figured out that it was different from what I had normally been singing. I was pretty exclusively a pop singer at the time, and I noticed that it was quite different. The style of singing that we did in choir was quite different. So, and it was also different from my lessons at the time. I was taking private lessons with a vocal coach who specialized in the pop singing and such. And so it was a lot of like coaching and performance aspects and stuff in the lessons. And in choir, I was learning a lot of breathing exercises and expanding my vocal range. And so I was exploring my vocal range, and that is when I found that I was a soprano 1. More on range in a minute, because that's a big topic in choir sometimes. So at that time, that was my only exposure. Choir was my only exposure to classical singing, and the more that I got into it, I was like, I want more of this. This is so much fun. I love singing in this way. I love singing in this style. And so I wanted more. And so I was excited to get to college and start private study. And when I did, I had private study with an amazing teacher who was an amazing vocal technician, and she also sang in choirs, and it was just really, really great. And I developed my voice as an instrument and started to really apply what I had been doing in my voice lessons into choir. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. This idea, for example, of like breathing in the vowel, when I got it and when I learned about it in my voice lessons, I got to take the time to practice it and know how to do it. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And now I know what my choir director's saying when she says breathe in and ah, so we can set up the space nice and easily. So yes, and so I also studied solo music in my voice lessons, and I found soloistic singing. And soloistic singing and classical singing soloistic singing in the classical style and choral singing in the classical style can have their differences. So I will talk about that more in a later video. So now some benefits on why, for me at least, taking voice lessons has benefited me as a choral singer. So I totally can understand and empathize with this. I've had so many choral director friends tell me this, that sometimes they are the voice teacher for young singers, and for many young new singers. And with private study, though, you get to really know your unique voice. So, you know, it can be different sometimes. Exploring your voice in a soloistic more setting or a small group setting, and really diving in deep to the technical aspects of your voice and what makes it unique. So here are some thoughts on that. So something important for choir, for example, is vocal range. So generally we've got soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and within that sometimes we can have divisi. So when we're divided into more parts. So we can have soprano 2, soprano 1s, alto 2s, alto 1s, and then it goes from there. The lower of the number, or the higher of the number, sorry, the higher number 2 is actually the lower of that part, and then the number 1 means that you're generally higher. So soprano 2s generally sing a little bit lower than soprano 1s. It's kind of confusing, but yeah, but once you kind of get used to it, it's like, oh, that makes sense. So some usually more divisions of these parts, soprano 1, soprano 2, tenor 1, tenor 2, these divisions can mean richer. We get really richer harmonies because there are more parts. So it's really, really cool. And so the voices can really expand, and the vocal range can really expand. And so sometimes singers are placed into these parts. And this is what I was going to say. From a private voice teacher perspective, I always say your voice part in choir may not be what you actually are. So, and I know, again, as a choir director, it can sometimes be hard to get really specific in choir because you're doing so many other things. If you're in a school choir, we did warm-ups, and then we did sight singing, and then we did repertoire and rehearsal. So it was really, so little time and so much to do in rehearsal. So sometimes we didn't have time to talk about all of this. And also in choir, there are so many different voices. Every voice is unique, every body is unique, every body type, every voice type is unique. So so it's tricky to talk about it in a group setting. So I totally get it. So let me talk about my experience. My experience is that when I was in choir, as I said, I discovered my full potential in my vocal range, and I found that I was very solid and felt very comfortable in a soprano 1, as a soprano 1, so the highest of the voices. So my personal experience, just me, I don't love soprano 2, not because of the inner parts, the harmony. I've got to sing, the harmony. It's not an ear problem for me. But I personally, from a voice perspective, get a little more fatigued in my middle voice because soprano 2s generally sing a little bit lower than soprano 1s. So my experience was that I would get tired quicker in the middle voice, and I just felt a little bit more comfortable as a soprano 1. And I remember my choir director in graduate school, Dr. Joseph, said, you have such an effortless top. And I was like, oh my gosh, thanks. Because I'd really worked on it. But I was asking her if she thought that I should sing soprano 2, and she said, you do you. I get that, you feel a little bit more comfortable higher. So that totally get it. So this is where it gets a little interesting. In soloistic singing, and maybe say operatic singing, this system works a little bit different. The voice classification system is called the Fach system, F-A-C-H. It's a German term. And it really goes even deeper. So essentially it's sometimes about color and weight of the voice, and about how it's gonna sound over an orchestra. A lighter orchestral accompaniment, like in some earlier operas, and then say romantic French grand opera, you might have bigger voices to really sing, or especially in German opera like Wagner. Yeah, so there are different types of sopranos. For example, that's such a topic for sure, and another video could be made on that. So you have fuller voices and lighter voices in general, and so I am a light lyric coloratura soprano, which means can easily fit up into the stratosphere of the vocal range, and I also have a lot of flexibility in my voice, so I can sing a lot of different runs, and they're called in classical music coloratura. So soprano one made sense, and I was like, oh wow, that's why I can sing soprano one well and easily. So now, not that, maybe in a few years or so I might try soprano two. It might help strengthen my middle voice. That is a good thing too. So yeah, more on this in other videos. Again, I did not know all of this until undergrad, so it was really, really cool. I mean, I knew some about my voice, but it was from a choral context, and it was really neat to get into private lessons and explore more. So, having said my experience, I know a lot of some altos, the just general classification, altos that sing soprano. And I have a soprano friend who has a really rich color, and a lot of times our choir director in undergrad had her sing alto because it really fit into the sound of the alto section better. So that may also be why a choir director has you sing one part and over another. So yeah, these parts though sometimes can put people into a box, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm an alto, so I don't sing high notes. Me as a soprano, I'm exploring my low voice, definitely. So yeah, we use as a voice teacher, I try to help my students use their entire voice in their lesson and discover all its possibilities, because what I found is that for lower voices, singing high, among many other things, can help stretch and relax the instrument. And for high voices, such as myself, who really feel comfortable in the upper stratosphere of their range, singing low helps with that anchor, helps with the strength and the color in the voice, and it's really important to have a chest voice development in the right way. Yeah, and what I've also found is that it adds to the beauty and the fullness and color of the high notes. It kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it does, it really does. And yeah, so having said that, you do need to know how to do it healthily, and that's where a good, amazing choir director and an amazing voice teacher can come in. So I did just want to say, maybe demonstrate that a little bit. So I'm a very high soprano. I feel most comfortable in soprano one, but how do I sing low notes? So I like to think about low notes, not pressed, not a lot of air, very narrow space, very relaxed, and very narrow space in my lips, in the front of my mouth, but a lot of space in the back. So where my jaw is, I'm going to make sure that my jaw is relaxed, my neck is relaxed. And so one of my favorite vowels to sing down low is an oo and an oo or an o vowel. So o, o, oo, now with that, we can have different colors of that sound. And I will say that I sang with a lot of a pop color in high school, so I'd go, ooh, 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 And that's not wrong. That's not wrong. That's appropriate for the pop style. But sometimes when we want to develop a more classical sound, it's important to have the right amount of space that we need for classical singing. Yeah, so I'll do more of a video on space and open throat later. Yeah, so within that sound, so we've got different colors that we can make. So and different amounts, this is where it gets interesting, different amounts of chest voice. So a more pop sound, popular sound, maybe show choir, musical theater, you might have a little bit more chest voice, what we call dominance, chest voice dominance, where the chest voice is a little more present, a little more dominant in the sound. So, yeah. And so, but then if we want to kind of back it off, or singing a Mozart aria or a Mozart piece in choir, there's a difficult part in the Mozart Requiem that goes, Dona eis requiem. Yeah, and so that I'm using a little more chest voice maybe than I'd want, but we can play around with those sounds and mix a little bit more head voice in. So requiem. Yeah, so fun stuff. Yeah, I'll play around with this later, but let me tell you guys, singing low notes have really been helpful in developing all of that high color. So just doing the Mozart Requiem example again. Yeah, we might have a little more of a straight tone there. Yeah, and going down to the octave can be tricky, so. Yeah, cool. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed that. So, the voice is amazing. It has all of these different colors, and all of these different sounds that it can make, so I feel like exploring all of them is so important and so much fun, and choir can be a wonderful way to explore that and do that. So, the final thing that I want to talk about from my experience as a young singer was that the high notes were always really easy to me, but I always wondered, how can they be, I don't know, more advanced, more professional, more, have more of a warm color? I remember thinking about this as a high schooler. And to me, that took many years, and it did take some really deep focus on my vocal technique. And so the way that I was singing was, I really had to think about that. So how was I approaching the note? How, what was happening physically in my body as I was singing? So 3 ideas was connecting to my breath support, connecting to my lower body in order to have the breath support that I needed to sing the high note well, not underblowing, not underdoing the air, but also not overblowing. It's really important that we don't overblow the air in the high, and that we have the right amount of closure and breath support going on. More on that later. Yay. Okay, so the other idea was keeping the jaw back. If we bring the jaw forward, it kind of closes off our space in the back, and I'm thinking about this back space here, but if we, I'm got my fingers right in front of my ears, and if we think about keeping the jaw a little bit back, I've got an exercise for this that I like to do. It's putting the thumb on the roof of the mouth and just gently letting the wrist rest on the bottom, on my bottom lip. So. Yeah, that's an idea to help keep the jaw, have a very sensory way of making sure that the jaw stays back. And then the other component with the high notes is keeping the lift in the cheeks. So instead of spreading, I was off my body, the sound got a little shrill, and if we keep some lift in the cheeks, yeah, it can really help. So it was amazing to explore my voice in that way, and I just remember singing the Lacrimosa from the Mozart Requiem 10 years ago and being like, oh my gosh, how do I make it sound different than it is right now? And it was just about technique and unlocking. Technique is about unlocking your voice, and that's what I love about exploring choral music and exploring solo singing and just singing. So yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I did want to say that I would love to do some more videos like this, and just I mean, I can't say enough how voice lessons and really getting specific about my technique has improved and enriched my choral singing. And so if you're able, I recommend finding a really good teacher and trying out a voice lesson if you're interested in your voice. So one of my intentions is to share something that I would like to call in my voice studio classical singing masterclasses, where I would hopefully go into schools and communities and churches and teach choral singers in a group class, on group voice class. Cool. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you next time for more of Choir Celebration. Yay!